This month at the Farnborough Boys Grammar School, just as in thousands of other schools throughout Britain, the moment of academic truth has finally arrived with those dreaded initials GCE. For once again this summer, success or failure in the ordinary and advanced level examinations of the General Certificate of Education will influence the future careers of 1 million candidates all over Britain. Under the scrutiny of the invigilators, the attainments of several years are going to be judged on the performance of a few frantic hours against the clock.
Right, stop writing. Put your papers in order. If you've used continuation stationery, make sure that it's tagged in at the back of your booklets. If you've used graph paper, make sure that it's opposite to the question that it applies to. Make sure that the tags go all the way through the booklets you've been using. Leave your scripts in order, face upwards. Right, Mr. Spraggett, will you dismiss them, please?
Open the last 6 rows of 6, 12, I have to be 5.
After each examination, the schools parcel up the finished answer papers and post them by recorded delivery. The papers are sent to the various examiners appointed by the GCE board which runs their particular school's exam. Now, as far as the candidates are concerned, the assessment process is in the hands of faceless and nameless men. And before the final verdict is pronounced, there are 3 months of doubts and fears.
It was an exam testing me on 4 books, 4 French books I've been studying for the past 2 years, 2 novels and 2 plays. And I couldn't help wondering, in fact, if you hadn't have interrupted me, I was just about to give in the books. And I doubt if I'll ever look at any of them again. I expect in a couple of years' time won't even be able to remember the titles. And yet it may well be on the result of that exam that I get to university or not. And it occurred to me was this really a fair way of assessing me over the past years?
What do you think the marking of these papers is going to be like? What sort of a job is it like, do you think?
Well, I mean, they send the papers around in big stacks to teachers up and down the country who have volunteered for the job. They're paid, I believe, pretty mean wages. A couple of the teachers in the school do it, and they have to sit through hundreds of scripts marking them. And it always strikes me that when they get to the end of these at about 1 o'clock in the morning or something, they're going to be pretty tired, and they're not going to devote as much attention to the later ones as they did when they started off. It seems to me that that's pretty unfair, but again, it's the only way it can be done.
They do pass them round, I think, don't they, the examiners? I mean, they don't leave one marker to just mark one paper. They pass it on and get a second opinion, perhaps a third opinion. So I think.
Do you feel yourself that the whole system's fair to you?
To me, I don't know. I think I'd have to wait for my results.
My greatest limitation is time, and I think this is a great difficulty with all exams. There's not enough time to do it, particularly with me. Now, I think I've got more potential. I've got potential to do better if I had the time. I could write better essays, more material, and all the rest of it. Now, in the essay I've just written, I answered 3 questions and half a question. Now, I'm going to seriously drop some marks in that case, I would think. And I think it's unfortunate because I could have gone on and finished a good essay, says I.
One of the men on whom so many hopes depend is Mr. Gordon Shute, the chief examiner in French for the AEB, the Associated Examining Board. He and his colleagues are all experienced teachers and now have 3 weeks in which to mark up to 400 papers each. They're paid about 40 pence for every A-level paper, and they're on their honour not to judge a candidate they know personally. It's all a rather gentlemanly procedure, and it relies, they say, like every stage in the whole process, on an unquestionable integrity.
It is impersonal, detached, and as far as possible objective, so that there is no possibility of personal bias entering into the assessment of a candidate's performance.
But how can you be absolutely sure that it's as humanly fair as possible?
I think you can't really be 100% certain in any of these cases. In the first place, you know, you have a wide variety of candidates, a wide variety of schools, a wide variety of methods of teaching. You can only, I think, get as many people together working on the particular area that you're concerned with and to evaluate it as far as you can at the level of the majority of the candidates who are offering themselves for examination.
The first check of the examiner's fairness comes in a London hotel. A committee of all those who are going to mark this year's AEB French papers try to agree on a uniform standard.
I think the first question we've got to ask ourselves as a basic question is, does this fail or does it pass? Is there anybody who thinks it fails at all? No. Right, we're all satisfied then that we've got a pass paper in front of us.
All the 8 different GCE boards have an inevitable passion for committees. And at each stage in the marking process, examining standards are frequently cross-checked. The boards also have a passion for security and for trying to keep themselves anonymous. Publicity seems to be particularly disliked by the more established, but the AEB, the newest and fastest growing GCE board, has now agreed to admit cameras for the first time. It's the only board not affiliated to a university, and it set up its headquarters far from the dreaming spires of Oxbridge in Station Road, Aldershot. This summer, the AEB will be processing no less than 1.5 million answer papers marked by 3,000 examiners in 80 different subjects. They employ more than 100 people just to make sure that the marks have been added up correctly. The board charges the local education authorities up to £2.40 a subject, and last year these fees earned them £1.25 million. But in spite of the scale of the operation, the examiners continually check batches of papers to compensate for lenient or severe marking. They admit, however, that the system is still not perfect in proving what a candidate's ability really is.
The exam system in itself, I don't know that it proves a great deal. It's supposed, I think, to be an indicator that a student has, or a pupil has carried out a programme of work and he has achieved a certain level of proficiency, of knowledge and ability, perhaps perception. If it proves anything, I suppose it can indicate that. I don't know that it can actually prove that, but it can indicate that.
It's a bit surprising to hear a chief examiner saying that he doesn't think the exam system proves very much.
Well, I don't know that it's surprising at all, really. I think if you find, if you talk to a great many people who are concerned with education, they are very much concerned to prove to themselves in their own contact with their students and classes that they are doing a valid job, and that the examination system, as you like, is a kind of confirmation to them of what they've been doing, and probably I can't see that it does in fact prove anything. The safest way, if you have a race of able teachers who are experienced widely, is that they would themselves certify their own charges as having reached a certain level of performance and competence. And that, to me, is what really matters. But it doesn't matter to the people in the great wide world outside. If a person goes to an employer and he says, my teacher thinks I'm very good, the employer wouldn't necessarily say, well, I can employ you on the basis of what your teacher thinks. Have you got an O level, or have you got an A level, or do you have a piece of paper to show that you're sufficiently good to be seeking this job? In the past, examinations have tended to govern what goes on in schools. You know, the teacher knows that the examination takes a certain form, so he teaches in a certain way. What is beginning to happen in my own subject very much now is that certain things are happening in the schools, and we as examiners are setting examinations to reflect the teaching that is going on. And this is what I'm interested in the examining for, to make it a fair test of the achievement of children from their own level, from what they're doing. I don't really want to be imposing something and saying that, no, you know, I would hope people would teach towards my exam. I'm trying to set an exam which I hope will reflect what is being taught in the schools.
The AEB's computer will soon be marking 3,000 multiple choice papers an hour and evaluating the final statistical scores in everything from algebra to Afrikaans. Its last job will be to print the slips on which the actual results appear. And for some people, more than others perhaps, it will then have been all worthwhile.